Support WrestleTalk!
Visit WrestleTalk.com.
Was Brie Bella to blame for the Liv Morgan incident? I am Luke Owen. This is El Fakador Laurie Blake. Welcome to the weekend WrestleRamble. And yes, this is a different lineup as Ollie Davis is busy doing business. Business.
He's a very businessy man.
So much business.
He's wearing a little jacket and everything today.
He was wearing a shirt and chinos.
Not the jacket.
No,
a
jacket. Yeah, it was a nice jacket. It wasn't a sexy jacket. We're sorting out all the stuff because we're very close now.
Do you want to show your mother?
We're very close to our studio move, so we're Ollie's got to go and do all the final bits into that. And I said this in one of our Patreon shout-out videos, but I personally just wanted to say a big thank you to the hard work that Ollie has done in order getting this place sorted out and getting all the content, the same amount of content that we would usually put out, even though we have been under very dire constraints at times and really have been having to almost work harder to get these done because it's been much harder to get the content out. So I think if you just leave your praise for Ollie Davis in the comments, then that'd be very lovely. And as a reminder, this episode is sponsored by Fight Forever, which is coming to the UK later this year in December. It's going to have big stars like Cody, the NWA World Champion. Will he still be champion by that point? As well as something to wrestle with Bruce Pritchard and Conrad Thompson. They're coming over to the UK for shows. They're going to be doing shows after the Fight Forever event. So it's going to be very, very cool. Tickets and information are found in the link in the video description below. You can tell that I don't usually do this bit.
No. It's the murder room. It throws you off.
It is the murder room. And I won't be sad to see the back of the murder room.
No. We're doing all right today because the apocalypse isn't happening, so it's fine.
I know. Well,
the normal sunshine apocalypse.
One of the errors that we made was always timing our WrestleRamble records at lunchtime, when it's the full-on midday sun is coming in. But there would be times when it would be really gloomy and overcast. I'd leave the house and I have to put a jacket on because it's a bit cold, like a hoodie or something. And then I get here, as soon as we sit down, the sun just starts blaring out.
What you can't see is the elaborate array of mirrors I've set up on the roof. But there's a torch.
It was you!
There's a torch on the other side of London that's powering that.
Yep. God, that was a really elaborate setup, to ruin, to make people comment.
So dastardly.
I hate the room. But yes, we're only in here for a little while longer. But let's jump to the topic at hand. Was Brie Bella to blame for the Liv Morgan situation on Raw? If you've been living under a rock, essentially what happened on Monday Night Raw was there was a match between the Bella Twins and Natalya versus the Riot Squad of Ruby Riott, Sarah Logan, and Liv Morgan. And during the match, pretty much right at the start of the match, to be honest, Brie Bella and Liv Morgan were in the ring. Brie Bella was doing her yes kicks, a tribute to her husband Daniel Bryan.
They quickly turned into no kicks.
They certainly did turn into certainly for Liv Morgan.
No.
And she kicked Liv Morgan in the face very, very hard. And Liv Morgan started to crumple down. And as Liv Morgan was crumpling down, Brie Bella threw another kick.
She kicked her again.
And kicked her again. So that was essentially it. And then they realised that something had gone wrong, something had awry. The referee had been told, apparently, this is what Fightful are reporting, that the referee was told to get Liv out of the ring. Mm-hmm. And so that's why Brie tries to sort of lift her up and tries to get pushed back into the corner, but Liv can barely stand and she just falls down again. And then Sarah Logan has to tag in. I think it's Ruby Riott tags in rather than she takes over the match. The report is that Ruby Riott used her years of indie experience to call the match on the fly and sort the whole thing out while Liv was being tended to at ringside. Now,
and then she went to the back and then they had to try to cover that.
Remarkably, Liv got back into the ring
to
do the suplex spot, like the six-person suplex spot, which is madness. Now, what Fightful are reporting was that was Liv on autopilot. She just knew that she had a spot to do, so she just jumped away from the doctors, jumped back into the ring, and they did that. It's live TV, I guess you can sort of say.
And to be a WWE doctor must be the most horrible. Like when you're out at ringside treating somebody and they just slide back in the ring. You're like, no,
no, I'm tending to you.
But it's your head that you.
Exactly. Yeah. There's Chris Amana as well, and we know and he's had some ups and downs in terms of his professional career as of late. So they did this spot, and then they went to commercial break. Liv was on the outside, and she was looking very dazed. They went to the commercial break, and they said that she'd been taken to the back. She actually hadn't. She was still at ringside because the cameras caught her a couple of times with the doctors at ringside. And it's now been announced that she has suffered a concussion from those kicks.
Too right.
Well, as you would certainly imagine, Brie Bella tweeted out about the incident. Every match on Raw is an opportunity for us to entertain our fans. Our intentions as WWE superstars is to win the match, never injure our opponents. Thinking about Liv Morgan tonight, heart emoji B. Which I'm assuming is Brie, not just Bella. Like it's just
Bella.
Yeah, exactly. It's just an all-encompassing. This is how we feel as a brand, or it could be B for brand. I don't know. So that is essentially what happened. So that's you all caught up on this scenario. Now this has been very much a talking point all week long. There's been various different think pieces posted around. A lot of people, particularly on our channel, in our comment section, have been saying that Brie should be fired, Brie should step away from the ring, Brie shouldn't be allowed in the ring, Brie should do this, Brie should do that, the Bellas should just be gone forever, what have you, and that Brie is 100% to blame. There are other people that say accidents happen in the ring.
Yeah, man. I imagine they do. In a thing where much of it is pretending to drop people on their heads. Sometimes you do drop them on their heads.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that happens. And, the same with, like, throwing out... The kicks only work, I guess, if you throw them out hard enough.
Yes.
So you have to put a bit of gusto into it. And, yeah, I think probably both are to blame slightly at some point in this. However, you don't want to be like, everyone's to blame. It's just an accident. It's just a thing. It's a miscue between two people doing a thing together.
Yes.
Liv has to be in the right place to receive the kick. Brie has to be delivering the kick properly. And yeah, I think obviously it's part of the problem with the whole Brie thing is that obviously she's had some fairly well advertised botches recently. Whatever that dive was.
Yeah. I mean, I said in my piece about Untitled Chapter, but there was for people to say that the Riot Squad were out of position, the Riot Squad were in position if she was ever going to make that dive.
Yes,
and she was never going to make that dive. As soon as she left those ropes, she was heading straight down. Yeah. But yeah, so Brie she hasn't had the best return, is the way that I put it.
Yeah, she didn't have a lot of locomotion behind her on that one. And I think that makes it it's quite an easy target. Like from watching it, I've seen other people argue the other side and say that like Liv ducked her head.
Yes.
Then took the kick in the face.
She was overselling.
It's probably a tiny bit of both. And I've seen other people saying that obviously like the kick, the actual ducking was from being hit from the first kick. She reeled and then went back in. And she was caught on the way down from basically passing out.
Yes, that's it. She was essentially like, and I think it was probably her hitting the floor and being covered and being rolled over was probably what almost brought her around.
Yes, yeah.
And I think that Brian Alvarez said this on Twitter as well, and I'm very much in agreement with Brian, is that I feel like the ref should have been so much quicker to notice that something was wrong. And Liv shouldn't have got back into the ring to do the suplex spot.
Not.
Like that should have been all you had to do. And I get that this is simulated violence. This is a simulated sport. It's a predetermined sport. All you have to do is just temporarily stop the match and get Liv out of the ring. Go to commercial break early and do that there. You didn't have to drag her across to the other side of the ring and tag out to make it, quote, seem real. Because I'll be honest, in a real sport environment, if someone is knocked out, the match is over. Like in UFC, if you get knocked out, you lose.
I think it's also that sort of, I think probably from a wrestler's perspective, it's a pride thing of the show must always go on. And, we've seen what Joey Janela finished a match after busting his knee, like 8 different injuries he's got. He's torn everything, is what the doctors basically said.
Pretty much every letter of the alphabet he has torn in his knee.
He finished the match though.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of the pride that these performers take in putting on this show for us. So I guess also from Liv's perspective, she probably didn't want to, and I'm imagining against doctor's wishes, she got back in the ring to do a spot. So I guess also in that case, it's hard to blame the referee in that sense because he probably doesn't also know like what
the severity.
What are the people backstage going to say if like she rolls back in the ring to do this spot and it seems fine? She's the only one who knows if she's fine or not until the doctor's checked her out. So if I stop the whole thing and go like, no, you can't come in here and do this 6-person suplex spot.
Well, that's why I would have thought an instant hold the X up.
Yeah, he's going to be cross.
Just hold the X up. Just call everything to a stop there and have her taken out and have her looked at by doctors. And I mean, it's hindsight 2020. 100 things could have been done differently in this scenario. I'm in agreement with you. I don't think that Brie Bella is 100% to blame in this scenario.
No, it was sloppy.
It was sloppy. And I think that she has been very unfortunate in her return. There's been 3 key moments, really. I mean, the 2 dives that she had in that match on Raw. First one she was never supposed to hit anyway, but the second one she was supposed to hit, she was never making either of them. She had no intention of diving through those ropes. The ending to
I'm a mother.
The ending to the SummerSlam match, not SummerSlam, the Hell in a Cell match, where her and Maurice, I mean, I don't know what they had intended, but it was just, they just fell over and Maurice covered her and won, and it made Brie look like an absolute fool to get pinned off of that. And then this as well. And there was not just this moment in the match with Brie, there was another moment later on, and viewers to this will know that I incorrectly said it was Nikki Bella and it wasn't, it was Brie. So we did this.
You got fooled by the old Bella trick.
I did. Twin magic genuinely fooled me. I did this whole thing. So I saw the clip and I was like, oh, that's Nikki Bella. I was like, oh, Nikki botched something in the match as well. That's really surprising. So I've always said that Nikki is the better of the two. So I found it very surprising. We did the whole review. And it was only until I was getting images for the news episode. And I saw it and I was like, oh, no. No, it was Brie again.
No.
And I realised, and I was like, oh, we've recorded the whole thing now. I'm actually exporting the edits and I can't go back and re-record anything. So I just said to Ollie, I was like, mate, we just need to put a comment up that just says that I got it wrong and you believed what I had said. And someone did call me out on that. Was like, don't bring Ollie into this. You were the one who made the error.
Never blame Ollie for anything.
Oh, absolutely not.
He's a perfect angel.
You're not allowed to blame him for anything.
Unfortunately, this is all his fault. All of this is his fault.
Actually, in all fairness, I did try and talk him out of this. I didn't.
I just mean WrestleTalk in general is his fault.
I think you just meant the murder room.
Yeah, the murder room is also his fault.
Yeah, I did try and talk him out of it, but he wasn't having any of it. What was I saying? So Brie had another spot in the match where Sarah Logan is trying to do the sort of catapult move, clearly for Ruby Riott to give her an elbow in the ring, dastardly heel, blah, 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 blah. Instead, Brie just goes up and just clocks her right in the face. And again, it's miscommunication. It was either Logan didn't tell her what the move was, or she did and Brie didn't hear, or something along those lines. Brie might have gone into autopilot mode herself.
Mode.
Yeah, she went into Brie mode. So, Fightful are reporting not only that Morgan got back to do the suplex spot as she was on autopilot and the referees were on the outside trying to assess her for a concussion, that Liv Morgan and Brie Bella were absolutely fine with each other backstage. That Brie was nothing but apologetic to her.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
As you would be. And Liv Morgan said it was fine. However, the rumour is, and obviously this is just rumour and innuendo, this is conjecture, that Ruby Riott and Sarah Logan felt very differently. They were very upset by the whole scenario because they are, genuinely friends with Liv Morgan. The 3 of them travel together, and so they were looking to protect their friend. Apparently, they were very angry at the Bellas, particularly when then Brie just clocked her in the face. On another accident.
It's a little bit like getting overexcited, isn't it? It's like she gets in the ring and she gets a bit too het up and then everything goes a bit wrong.
Yeah, it goes a bit wrong. Yeah, and I think it's almost one of the, like, if you'd have concussed Liv, it's one thing, but then you punched me in the face as well. So it's almost like, why am I in the ring?
Yeah, why are you not being careful now?
Yeah, and not only that, but we keep losing to you. We're essentially here to put you over. This is just me putting things onto the situation. I'm absolutely not saying there's anything, but it's almost like you could almost feel that's why.
Well, yeah,
and then you got the Super Showdown match as well.
Well, absolutely, and I think that's obviously why a lot of fans are feeling this way about the Bellas as well, because you can see that other more technically competent wrestlers are putting them over as these like scions of the women's wrestling
evolution,
evolution, industry in general, just womanhood. They are the pinnacles of womanhood. According to WWE.
However, it's them and Stephanie.
However, they're kicking people in the head.
Yeah, I think there is a certain sector of fans, particularly ones who are watch this channel and leave their comments, and are on our Discord as well, and in Patreon and our community we got over there with the Pledgehammers. They don't want to see the Bellas. They're just very much sick of seeing the Bellas back. No one really asked for them to come back. They're just here.
No.
And now they're in these very high-profile matches. Got this big match at Super Showdown. The rumor is it's going to be Nikki Bella versus Ronda Rousey at Evolution or Evolution, whichever you want to pronounce it. The Bellas are very much going to be a focal point in this company, probably up until Evolution, possibly after. Maybe they're going to stick around to a Survivor Series or what have you. And I get it. Like, I get why the Bellas are here.
There's another series of Total Bellas coming out, mate.
They have mainstream...
Simple.
They have mainstream appeal. So I do get that. The idea being that, like, we put them on and people come in and watch it. And the first hour of Raw is the most watched hour. Perhaps it's because the mainstream audience watch them, and as soon as their match is over, they just tune off and watch NCIS or watch whatever other show is on at that time. I don't watch American TV. I mean, we don't have it, so I don't know what's on. It's probably something on.
I said earlier when you were talking about other shows that had been on, what's NCIS FBI?
Yeah, no, it's NCIS, FBI.
Two different shows. I just thought they just started listing more letters.
Yeah, it's just all the letters afterwards.
NCIS, FBI, ASAP,
BA Honours,
GTG.
So I get why WWE wants the Bellas there, but as a fan of WWE, as a fan of wrestling in general, I've never liked the Bellas. Like, even back in the day, I was never into the Bellas. I never saw the appeal of them. So, like, in that sort of 2007, 2008 period when they were always the focal point then as well, and, like, you know, when I think they went away for a bit and they came back and they were sort of the focal point of the women's division. Even though they weren't champions, they were still like, these are sort of the top guys. I was never into the Bellas, so I've never been into this comeback either. And I'm quite ready for it to go. And I think there is a much better use of the Riot Squad. Yeah. You've done your prediction videos for Super Showdown.
Yes.
And not to spoil one of the results you've given or one of your predictions in there, but I love the way that you kind of put that, which is for Ruby Riott to get the win.
Yeah.
By either through some miscommunication between Nikki and Rousey to set up their match at Evolution.
But if that then gives Riot the win, you then also have, because I can't imagine that Nikki Bella is taking the Raw Women's Championship off Ronda Rousey at Evolution.
Not. No, she is there to put her over.
In no way, shape or form. But if the Riot Squad win through a miscue with Rousey and the Bellas, Ruby Riott makes a very good contender for the championship, because you don't have to do the same sort of mental arithmetic to make it seem like she's going to get a fair fight against Rousey, because she's got two mates.
Well, Alexa had two mates.
Yeah, but she's got better two mates. She's got two she's got a proper team, whereas
Ruby has got better mates.
Alexa had to be like, Alicia, buddy, come hang out.
Are you Mickey James? No, you're not. You're the other one that's not. Yeah. Okay, but still, come to the ring with me.
Yeah, so she put together a sort of improv, but they didn't play into that a hell of a lot.
No.
But whereas the Riot Squad have always been, since their debut on the main roster, a cohesive unit, and they work together, and they have wrecked people previously.
Carved ties.
Yeah, exactly. So it's that kind of. Yeah, they did a lot of that. So they did quite a few weeks of just not pushing stuff over when they didn't
knocking over light stands.
But they
tray sandwiches.
But they do, and they could seem like a credible threat if positioned correctly, because they've got the numbers and they've got the fact that they are an established team and they seem like they work.
Yes.
So yeah, you get the best of both worlds. If you pitch it that way, because otherwise you just have, I don't know, like a Bella's heel turn.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be honest, after the Bellas and after Evolution, I don't know where you go with Rousey as champion, because you haven't got, like, your only other heels, as far as I can remember, on the Raw Women's side, it's Mickey and Alicia Fox.
Yeah.
And they're Alexa's lackeys, so they're not top contenders. So really, you want to try and use
Baszler.
Or Baszler, I suppose.
Baszler.
Yeah,
send her up.
Send her up. So, yeah, Baszler will probably be the best shout, to be honest. But, like, yeah, you haven't really got any other credible challengers for Rousey, unless you do a babyface challenger like an Ember Moon or a Nia Jax or Bailey or who have you. Yeah. Dana Brooke. Dana Brooke's a heel?
If she ever comes back.
Well, yeah, poor old Sasha. We don't know what's wrong with Sasha, unfortunately.
Turn Asuka, send her over.
Yeah, but she's just gone.
I know, it's sad.
It is sad. But anyway, so I wanted to just have a quick discussion about the Brie Bella situation. So, I mean, everyone is obviously entitled to their opinions, but I've seen some, I would say, almost quite reckless reporting of this. And it's really interesting as well to kind of compare how this story has been reported compared to others. Because accidents happen in WWE. Accidents happen in wrestling all the time. Yeah. And there was, someone posted up, it was a really good comparison piece. And it was the way that Samoa Joe hitting the Muscle Buster on Tyson Kidd and ending his career. And it was like, horrible accidents in the ring. Tyson Kidd is being evaluated, possible career-ending injury, blah, blah, blah. And it was very much a somber tone. And they also had a quote from, and this is all the same website as well, I'm not going to name and shame the website, but also the same website reporting Seth Rollins and Sting and the accident that happened there with the buckle bomb that ended Sting's career and how that was reported. It's like, it was a terrible accident, things like that. And then they reported this, and it was like, this is about as awful as wrestling can get, about as reckless as wrestling can get. And I was like, well, Liv's, I know she's got a concussion, but as far as we know, her career isn't over yet.
She'll
probably be.
How many
fine.
did Daniel Bryan have? Loads. He's still going.
So she will most likely be fine. Whether she's going to be at Super Showdown is another matter.
Yeah,
but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So I think that there has been some quite reckless reporting, and I think there's been some people in comments who've been very mean and horrible in the way that. And I'd imagine that Bella's have had a lot of hate thrown at them on Twitter as well.
I think the problem is that people, when the Bellas came back, people were like, but why? And then this, and everyone's like, and now this? On top of you just being here?
Oh, you're
this
the
as
worst.
well? What are you doing?
Just the worst.
And it's a shame, I think, because I think they have a role to play in the women's division, certainly. It's just not the role they've got right this moment.
And it's not a role that I'm massively into.
And it's not a role, and it's not a role anyone would necessarily massively be into, but, it should be the Riot Squad well above them. Them somewhere down here. They can still be there, they can still do stuff, they can still draw in their crowd, because I don't think their crowd cares what match they're in, what billing they've got. It doesn't really matter. So they could be doing all of that safely. That's my overall review. Safely.
It's now time for some crap gimmicks. If you are new to this show and you're wondering, what the heck is a crap gimmick? Crap gimmick is a section we do on our Saturday show where you, the SWAF Nation, send in to us your submissions for crap gimmick wrestling, and then we, as the bookers and curators of crap gimmick wrestling, select one, usually just one, sometimes none, and induct them and sign them to crap gimmick wrestling. If you're wondering, what's a crap gimmick, you say, we try to think of it as the old WWF method of you are a wrestler and a blank, but also it could go very obscure. Now, there's a bit of controversy.
You are a wrestler and a stapler.
Rob Schneider is a stapler.
He's about to find out.
There's a bit of controversy from last week's crap gimmicks. In that Ollie and I, signed a submission to us called Kaiju. Kaiju was I'll give you the short synopsis of the pitch, because I know you don't watch the show. So it's a short synopsis of the pitch.
I've got stuff to do on Saturdays.
I know. We're very busy people. Got wardrobes to build.
Yeah.
But it's essentially a wrestler would come down to the ring, and then the lights would go out, and then a spotlight would come up onto the stage, and out would come Kaiju, who was a man in a rubber suit, a la Godzilla or a la Power Rangers, things like that. And they would walk down to the ring, and as the lights came back up, the wrestler who's in the ring has been replaced with an action figure, and a cardboard city has been built around the wrestler, and then Kaiju wrestles the action figure and
destroys the city
in the process.
I like it.
I loved it. But there are some people, and I've had tweets about this, that has been almost uproar and outrage.
What?
That it is essentially...
Someone went to Twitter with outrage? It must be serious.
It is. I mean, I was on there with outrage yesterday after I saw The Predator, which is a god-awful movie. But it's a few people have said, well, it's just a rip-off of Kaiju Big Battle, which is a Japanese wrestling promotion. And I think that's unfair, because that's all one type of thing, whereas this is one guy, and it's just one wrestler amongst another thing. It's a sideshow. It's a one piece. So we're sticking with our guns. We are keeping Kaiju signed to Crap Game Wrestling despite the protest. He's essentially going to be the Bella twins of our. We're going to keep bringing him back despite the fact that people don't want him.
Hey, he's allowed to be a rip-off. It's Crap Gimmicks.
In all fairness, yeah, and also this isn't real, so it's fine. But this submission comes in from Daniel Stafford, sent to us on July 14th. If you want to send in your submission, it's luke@wrestletalk.com. That's luke@wrestletalk.com. One more time, luke@wrestletalk.com.uk. And we have a backlog of them, which is why we're currently in the middle of July, but we are getting through this. So if yours was before July 14th and hasn't been read out, it hasn't been accepted. So July 14th.
After, expect it sometime in 2021.
We'll get there eventually. Daniel Stafford suggests Dame Wishy Washy. Dame Wishy Washy is a short, fat pantomime dame who is obsessed with cleaning. She comes to the ring with a gigantic, elaborate hairpiece full of dishcloths and sprays, as well as a checkered apron with various products in its pocket. She also clutches a feather duster which she brushes annoyingly in the faces of the fans by the ramp. Her finisher is the mandible claw using a dishcloth, similar to Mr. Socko, which is set up by Wishy Washy waving her hand as her opponents gets to their feet, which prompts the crowd to yell, "It's behind you!" causing the opponent to turn around. However, she can be prone to cheating, such as spraying cleaning fluid in the opponent's eyes when the referee has his back turned. Wishy Washy's ideal matches would be a clean-off, a hair versus hair match, which would result in her wig being removed and only to be revealed as a balding, middle-aged man. So essentially, it's a pantomime gimmick. And I, as a proud Englishman, not that proud, I love this because I love the pantomime. I bloody enjoy a pantomime. I think they're tremendous fun.
They are. We used to take my sister to them, and she gets really into it, but she'll shout out all the wrong moments.
Oh,
That's
right,
like
awesome.
My sister's favourite thing to do is shout out in the theatre at the wrong things. For those watching at home, my sister's got learning difficulties, so it's always stuck around 7. She's actually 33, but she's about mentally 7. So when we take her to things, yeah, she just loves to shout out at the wrong moment. So, like, she'll be watching Dick Whittington and the cat comes on and she goes, "Oh, it's the cat!" And then the people have to be on stage being like, Yes. Like, so
yes,
have to
it is
play
the
along.
cat.
But she did it once during Les Miserables. We were seeing Les Mis, and they started singing, Fontaine starts singing the really beautiful song, "I Dreamed a Dream." And she goes, "I dreamed a dream of time gone by." And my sister just goes, "Oh, yeah." Like, so loud.
Oh man, but I'm a big fan of pantomime, and like with this as well, you can introduce all of the crowd reactions you get out of pantomime. The "she's behind you," "oh no it isn't,"
Oh yes it is.
So I'm a big fan of Dame Wishy Washy. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I like Dame Wishy Washy. I think that's a very fun idea. You need to skew it so it doesn't go too far into the drag act WWE style.
Not Bobby Lashley's sisters.
Oh no,
that's not where we want to go. Jer Personen, a Pledgehammer, the chairman of the board, Pledgehammer, Jer Personen, sent this in on July 15th. "Hello, Ollie and Luke." I'm assuming he also means you. "I'm a huge fan of WrestleTalk. Love your channel. I found it somewhere beginning of 2017 by accident. I was watching Name Redacted's channels about wrestling news, and YouTube started suggesting this weird channel with a funny-looking dude who yells all the time. First, I thought the videos were too short and didn't have any original content. Only recap shows.
Is this a gimmick or is this a toast or a roast?
I watched but didn't pay too much interest into those. That all changed when Luke came and you guys started doing the podcast and even news episodes and reviews, as they've started being more interesting content. Brackets, read that as comedy. I was hooked from the very first one and I started to donate money right away so Luke can stay. Thank you very much, Jer Personen. Luke, you are my kind of guy, and someone does like me. Anyway, here's a
I feel
suggestion.
like you've chosen this one for a reason.
Well, he's a Pledgehammer, so I don't want to say no to him regardless, but also he seems like a top guy.
We could have just started at this. Could have just started at the gimmick.
No, you gotta read. Absolutely, you gotta read
the whole letter.
It's all about context, really, isn't
There's
it?
6 more paragraphs about me.
Here's what he says about my hat. He also likes my beard. Wrestler's name is Billy Bob Jones. He is a wrestler who is also a men's rights activist who is a big hairy man with a big belly and he always wears jeans. He hates feminism and represents male supremacy. Anytime females are having a match, Billy will interrupt the match as he tries to stop such nonsense because females should not fight. Brackets, they should be at home. Because he believes women are not meant to be equal to men in any way. He feels that women's evolution movement is trash to all men and society, and he yells that. When Billy has to have his own matches, he does everything to avoid having a match. He runs away whenever he can because he's a coward, but on promos and on backstage he's a manly man who acts like he owns the place. Bob's finisher is a man hug, reversed bear hug, and he does all the time to the point where... does all time a power where he points up left with a fist as a male sign. Don't quite understand the end of that there. He does have a preface. I don't hate women. I respect them. I'm not Billy Bob myself. So essentially it is a parody of men's rights activists, which...
That last sentence got screwed up by autocorrect, didn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say, autocorrect was
mangled.
not your friend here, Jer Persona, and I know it's your first language, but it was not on your side there. I feel like there is some mileage in a parody of men's rights activists, but it's not in this pitch.
No, you want to pitch it like Battle of the Sexes, the film.
I haven't seen that
the actual
yet.
real life. What's her name? It was Billie Jean King is her name,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then what's his name? Bobby something.
Yeah, I was going
It is
to watch it on
Bobby
the
something,
plane
isn't it?
going to Canada, but I didn't actually get around to watching
Yeah.
it.
So the real life, obviously tennis competition between the two was very serious for the women's side of things and a farce for the men's side, and then obviously the actual match played out far differently than I guess the man would imagine. And I think that's the way you want to pitch it. Like, it's almost, the film makes it a parody almost in that sense. Like, it's that he's that sort of grating in his character with, like, he's all of his practice sessions, he's like got sheep on the court, or he's walking the dogs at the same time, or he's just having a party, and he just, instead of like training, he's just taking meds and things like that. That kind of level of like sexism, I guess, you could probably skew and get away with, because actually all it does is elevate the female performer.
Yes.
In that regard, like the putting down of the women has to be so on the line of like, it's pathetic from the perspective of the man, that because I think otherwise, him just ruining women's matches.
It will get the wrong kind of heat.
Yeah, I think it's the wrong kind of heat.
It's almost like Jeff Jarrett's gimmick just before he left WWF back in '99 when he was in this feud with China, where it was like, women should be barefoot and pregnant, and that was essentially his whole shtick. And the whole idea was then China would beat him in a good house cleaning match and win the IC title. And it didn't quite get a plan really, but I think that's what you want to do, is you want to really push it to the point of parody.
Yes.
You almost want to be them, like, you know how Cool Runnings is a great film, right? Like, it's a great film. However, it's not the most like true to history film. You know, the Germans in real life of Cool Runnings helped the Jamaicans. They lent them a bobsled when theirs was broken. But in the film, there's the Germans. We are so horrible and mean. Look at you coming in here. We do not want your kind around here now, sir. You know, eating bratwurst and wearing lederhosen, as parody as you possibly can be.
Yeah.
That's almost that's how I would pitch the men's right activists. So I think there's a good idea there, but it's certainly not in this pitch.
Kernel of an idea.
Yeah, it's the kernel of an idea. And our last one was sent to us by Tyler on July 15th. You guys need to boost the crap tag team division, and I have the guys. Rabbit Foot and Turtle Shellman.
I feel like I know where this one's going.
The team comes out with Rabbit, a cruiserweight man, running around Turtle, a 400-plus super heavyweight, in circles, then going all around the fans, giving them their high fives, finally hopping into the ring. Turtle realizes stamina is not his strong suit and carries a collapsible chair on his back, taking breathers for a minute or two just doing the entrance. Taking so long, Rabbit starts every match like a house on fire, many high spots, essentially 2-on-1 before Turtle even gets to the ring. He meanders into the apron for a hot tag so he can deliver 2-3 moves at most. Sometimes he just absorbs the other team's offense by laying on his stomach, unable to be rolled over for a pin, letting Rabbit rest and come back in to simply hit his finisher, Shell Ya Later, which is a rolling senton done painfully slow. Rabbit's finisher is feet first, which is basically Jeff Hardy's cardiac arrest. I think you'll find it's a Hardiac arrest, with a double kick in the corner. They have a tag team finisher called First Place, where Turtle sits on the opponents while Rabbit delivers a curb stomp. Bread, because we have a tag team called Bread. Bread, we come in for you, suckers. That's from Tyler D. So it's the age-old story of the turtle and the hare, not Rabbit, the turtle and the hare.
It was also a tortoise and a hare, because a turtle is an aquatic creature.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I forgot.
Unless
that
it was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle and
yes.
a hare.
And when we all know that they can't swim if you played the NES game.
Because they're tortoises. They are misnamed.
So, yeah, I mean, I actually quite like Rabbit Foot and Turtle Shellman. You know, misplaced names aside, I think this is a fun tag team gimmick.
I enjoy it, yeah. I like it.
I'm a big fan of this. So I suppose
it's funny having the little guy carry the big guy. I think in that sort of reverse of fortune.
Yes, that's
kind of
very
thing
true.
As well.
Usually, it is usually the little guy that gets worked over and he tags in the big powerhouse, like Jesse and Festus.
Enzo and Big Cass.
Yes. Who's he? Or who either of them are. So I suppose we're going to make a decision here. I feel like it's between Dame Wishy Washy and Rabbit Foot and Turtle Shellman. And it's tough because Tyler's right, we don't have a lot of tag teams. We do have a lot of singles guys and girls. Actually, we don't even actually have that many singles girls. So I'm actually leaning more towards the tag team.
I'll join you on the tag team.
Yeah, we'll sign them on the tag team then. Thank you very much. And if you want to submit any questions to the mailbag, all you have to do is become one of our awesome pledge hammers over on our Patreon page, and you can leave your question in our awesome community section that we've got over there. Now, I imagine that this will have changed by the time this episode goes out.
Dun, dun, dun.
However, as a live test to see if we've hit our goal of Patreons, I was curious to see if we'd actually hit it on air. Oh, we have! We've just passed the goal! 751 patrons. That means, and this was actually unplanned, Laurie and I will from now on be doing weekly NXT reviews in the WrestleRamble format for you, the Swap Nation. Hot dang, that's a great bit of news.
On Thursday, not today.
Yes.
We're recording on Thursday,
yes.
but we haven't watched NXT yet, so.
Excellent, well, we've reached our goal.
Boom.
Bloody chuffed to bits with that. Very, very happy.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Seriously, any one of you who has become one of our pledge hammers, we love each and every one of you. It's been a tremendously exciting day, kind of like counting that down. So that was awesome to do that live on air. But, yes, and now that you are pledge hammers, send us in your questions. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about. This first one comes in from...
the least we can do.
It is the least we can do. Well, actually, I mean, the least we can do is NXT reviews, because that is literally the base level of what we need to do. So,
yeah, true.
As an extra, you can send in questions.
For God's sake, answering questions as well.
Ben Martin has asked in, first of all, I must apologise I've taken so long to become a pledge hammer. However, I'm finally in a financial position to do so. I've been following WrestleTalk since I discovered the Squash podcast a few years ago, the show that helped me get back into wrestling. So I'm well chuffed to now be able to contribute to my favourite group of content creators. My question is this. On the latest episode of NXT, 465 at the time of writing, they are advertising tickets for TakeOver War Games in November. This is quite an apt question, I suppose. With the current state of things in NXT, who would you like to see in that main event and why? Keep up the consistent work and hopefully see you chaps on the Saturday at Wrestling Media Con. Well, I hope we saw you, Ben. Because that's obviously, Wrestling Media Con was a couple of weeks ago now. Did you guys do this one?
Me and Nolly have done this one, yeah. But it'd be interesting to hear what you think would be the... I think Ollie forwarded me this email to say that we haven't done this one yet. I remember Pub Church Guy.
Yes, Pub Church Guy. Thank you, Ollie, for setting me up to look like an idiot. Absolute idiot.
I think I said... obviously, Undisputed Era. If you're going to do the same format as last time, where it's 3 tag teams of 3 in the War Games match, Undisputed Era would obviously be a great fit. British Strong Style would be another one. And then I think probably it would be War Raiders and a third.
Ricochet.
Probably Ricochet, because he's got history with Adam Cole and Pete Dunne now.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. I was kind of like where I thought if they were going to stick to the same format. Bearing in mind I don't read NXT spoilers, so I'd imagine they've already announced that main event, but I don't know what it is. So that was kind of where I was thinking of it going. However, I would like to see them do it in the more traditional War Game style. If Bobby Fish is able to get back into the ring, if he's going to be well enough for the match, and you do it as a 4-on-4 traditional War Games style, and you have all 4 of the Undisputed Era versus War Raiders, Pete Dunne, and Ricochet.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Which you have that sort of the 4-on-4 dynamic. I think that would be a really corky match. It's a shame that British Strong Style aren't involved in that. You don't have Tyler Bate and Trent Seven involved in the match. Also, that means that really opens up the rest of the card in terms of matches, because usually you're kind of like taken up with all title matches. But with your tag team champions and your North American champion and your United Kingdom champion all in one match, then now you've only got to have an NXT championship and a women's championship. And then you can have some fun, just feudy stuff. Yes, one of which is apparently going to be Matt Riddle and Cassius Ohno, which will be a really good match. And I'd love to see Keith Lee get on the card. Someone asked me, like, they were doing the answering your questions in the first 15-ish minutes of a video going live. Someone said to me, it was like, who would you like to see as Keith Lee's first feud? And I was like, to be honest, if I'm WWE, I would look at the fact that you've got Keith Lee and Donovic Dijak on the same brand and just be like, I just put them on the card. Just go out there and just have that PWG match you had last year, which was absolutely incredible. And just walk away with all the awards at the end of the year. Because they will have... No setup, just off you go. Yeah, just off you go. Just and away you go. It's Keith Lee and Dijak. And they'll just... I mean, I can't I don't know why they've changed his name to something that's so complex to say. But I'm just going to call him Dijak. But that's what I'd like to see for Keith Lee. But back to the question for War Games. I would really like to see either the 4-on-4 or as the same one you had, which is the 3-on-3-on-3. So, up next from Marcel Duro, a very active man in both our community and on Twitter. Hi Luke, hi Ollie, hi Laurie.
Hi.
When it comes to great entertaining wrestlers, I realise that most of those I enjoy have one thing in common. They are not only students of the craft, but also students of the history of wrestling. For example, Velveteen Dream really cares a lot of wrestling history. Does anyone else remember the hilarious argument from his Tough Enough season where the other guy said the line, "Knowledge means nothing"? I'll be honest with you, no. Because I didn't watch Tough Enough. And apparently no one else, apart from you,
My
did.
eyes weren't tough enough.
My eyes, oh, they were not. Absolutely not. There's enough WWE programming out there to actually watch another reality TV show. Back to the email. And I think it shines through in his performance. Another example is Shayna Baszler, who is known to be an encyclopedia of wrestling history knowledge. In the old days, I think you had to become knowledgeable in this stuff, or otherwise the old-timers would eat you alive. But now NXT, you could go by without learning anything. So here I made an argument for what I would like to ask you. Should wrestling schools also teach wrestling history? Thank you for answering. Love you. Goodbye. Also, my offer is still up. If you guys are coming to next year's WXW 16 Karat Gold tournament, I'll buy you 1 to 12 pints of beer.
I want 12.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a great offer.
That is a great offer.
Yeah, that's German beers as well. I mean, they don't mess around.
No, they're like just torpedoes for you. for your
Oh, good lord, that's a lot of when we were in Belgium for my wife's 30th birthday, you just get given a menu, which is like, we have 150 beers on available. Which ones would you like? And you go through and you select them, because I bloody love me beers, my craft ales and things like that.
Cross off the ones you don't want.
Exactly, yeah. And you go through and you look at the percentages of them, and like here, if you're keeping something session, that means you're going below 4.5% alcohol. You're keeping it nice. I'm going to stay session. That's a session ale. A
lot of them are like sort of like high threes as well, like sessions like 3.8, 3.9.
Exactly, yeah. When I was in Canada, like session over there, I think is 6%. Like that's the way they do session beer over there. And it's the same in Belgium. You look at it, it's like 8, 9, 10, 11. You're like, Lord, these beers are really strong. But you drink them and I can see why, because they're bloody delicious. Sorry, I got distracted talking about Belgian beers and German beers.
Let's get a...
It's a plug for Beer 52 if you're listening on the podcast. Beer52.com/ramble and collect your free case.
Let's go to Belga after this.
I'm going to go and have my Beer 52s. It's a German-themed month. So anyway, should wrestling schools also teach wrestling history? What say you, Laurie?
I mean, it's probably a good idea to some degree. I don't think it has to be like as formal a class as you need to learn all of this stuff. I think obviously it helps certain people do certain things, and I guess in the kind of old school backstage lifestyle, it's probably useful to know all this stuff, because then you can talk to people on a level, especially when a lot of the bookers are old-time wrestlers and all that kind of stuff. It's much easier to kind of communicate with them on a level if you know where they came from, or what they did, or why this is done this way. And I think there's a lot of aspects of wrestling that it's useful to know the history of. It's also very useful to know who won what match at some point for specific guys. But also, wrestling history is so hard to keep up with because it changes. It gets retconned.
I was going to say, do you do the real wrestling history or the work wrestling history?
Because there's both, and it's very difficult because a lot of, I think past a certain point, like more recently, obviously the backstage workings of wrestling have opened up beyond just stories people are telling 10 years after the fact. People are now expressing what they're experiencing on Twitter or through interviews or on podcasts and all this kind of stuff. There's also a bit more openness just from companies like WWE about what the actual process of being a superstar is. All these little series of like going and meeting Alexa Bliss's family, or Bayley going back to the first gym she ever wrestled in and talking about her career running up to WWE and stuff. It's much more open about the fact that like these are performers being a character.
Yes.
So, yeah, wrestling history is quite hard to grasp further back than that because it was all quite cloak and daggers. So you're only really going on speculation, and it becomes pretty much like some of our news videos where you have to be like, allegedly, reportedly, this person said this one time.
Yes.
Do we know what actually happened here? So sometimes it could be helpful, but sometimes you could, I guess, be learning something that's just going to piss someone off down the line because it's not the truth.
Yeah, I think you don't want to go to the point of like, well, you can't progress up to the main roster unless you can tell me the entire card of WrestleMania 6. Like, I don't think it needs to drill down into that much, but I would certainly say that if there's, like, you mentioned Velveteen Dream and Shayna Baszler in your email, Marcel, about like two people who are like, you know, they love their wrestling history, are wrestling history encyclopedias. Someone who is a wrestling history encyclopedia is Triple H. You know, he is called The Game for a reason. He was a game, you know, he studied wrestling. You know, he loved the sport of it, and like he was a student of the games, where you know the name comes from. So you almost want to do it just to get into his good books, really, just so you can sit down and just talk about like a piece of wrestling history from the 60s, like we know when X wrestler had that amazing run in St. Louis doing this. Because Triple H would be like, absolutely, yes, let's just sit down and talk about. I mean, I know I'm really busy.
Really quickly fall behind him as he went off on one about some other small aspect.
And you're like, oh no, my learnings were a little bit flawed. I'm just gonna make it worse. Oh, I only got up to 64, and he's talking about 65. Dang. So I think there is certainly an argument for it. But I don't think it's necessity in there. But I think there's a lot to learn from wrestling history and kind of watching wrestlers from back in the day. I think that sometimes if you watch like an old wrestling match, you might see a move that you don't see much these days anymore. Like, that's a really cool looking move. Or even just like wrestling from around the world it's really funny when you watch like WWE and then you watch some New Japan, or like you watch New Japan and then you watch WWE, and you're suddenly like, oh, I see where a lot of the guys now get their moveset from. It's like, it's all just Hiroshi Tanahashi. They're just basically stolen his whole thing. It's like everyone does sling blades now because it's one of his finishing moves, and it's like, oh, Hiroshi Garoshi, eh? Oh, really? Where'd you get that from, mate? So I think like a lot of people, the ripcord knee is essentially the Rainmaker. You know, so like. I think being a student of wrestling from around the world is always a good thing. Like when you see Miko Sasamura, when she does her like Scorpion Axe kick thing, you look at that move and you're like, why has no one stolen that?
Yeah.
Like, why? Because it's such a wicked looking move. So I would certainly say that as my answer.
Oh yes, it's obviously a super useful. Like, I think like all history, it's useful to know history.
Yes.
At some point, however. Not always fundamentally necessary to what you're doing.
Yeah. Jared Conister asks, to the Trios champs, Ollie, Luke and Laurie, what is your favourite face versus face matchup? Mine would be Flair versus Michaels at WrestleMania, when the ever-tearful I'm sorry I love you made us all cut onions. Now this was a fun one because you and I had to, like, we sort of
sit going,
face versus face matches, and you Googled an article for like the best face versus face matches that ended up being utter bobbins.
It was. There was. I won't say who it was by because I can't remember. But
typical.
One of them. Yeah, one of the matches listed on this 10 face versus face list was Sasha Banks and Bayley at Takeover
Brooklyn.
when Bayley won the title.
Absolutely not. Was Sasha Banks a babyface at that time?
Sasha was a heel.
Such the heel at that point.
I think they'd done it from the perspective of now they're all faces.
Yeah.
So
I guess they were always faces. Yeah,
that's
right.
Fine.
But you and I came up with a couple of them that we're both in agreement on. I'll let you take the first one.
The match, Michaels versus Undertaker at Mania 25, which is this is like I'm just putting something on to watch while I eat my dinner. Yeah. Like at random. Like once a month, it just pops into my head to be like, I'm just going to watch that match again. It's so good.
It is really great.
Both guys were just living legends by this point. So it could only have ever been this wonderful meeting of two people that you wanted both to win. Yeah. But obviously the Undertaker had a bit more at stake here. So
absolutely, yeah. It was a really awesome match. We did WrestleMania 25 as one of our Patreon podcasts. As a Pledgehammer, you should have listened to it by now because it's a very good episode. But it's, Ollie's called it one of his favourite matches of all time in the review, and I've got to agree with him. It's an absolutely incredible match.
It really
as you said, it's so good.
Even the dive,
while
bad, still incredible.
Yeah,
how does he? How?
You know how we were talking about the Brie dive earlier?
Yeah.
And it was a botched dive and it looked awful. Yeah. Like that Undertaker dive is a botched dive, but still kind of works within the story.
I think they kind of lucked out that the camera was on the other side.
Then they showed one of the replays where they show him landing. But I think they worked it so well is that because they're such amazing workers that they just turned it into part of the match and they just worked around it, and then commentators, smart as they were and just allowed to kind of improvise and stuff, use that to kind of guide the story of the match. And I think it was a really, really tremendous moment. I remember when we did the review for the podcast, I made the error maybe an error on my part anyway. I said I always thought the match afterwards, the second match they had, was better, the Shawn Michaels retirement one. But actually, watching the Mania 25 match, I do think that one is better. I think it's a really, really terrific match.
It's a stunning piece of work.
Absolutely. And the other one we picked out was AJ Styles versus John Cena from Royal Rumble 2017, I think.
Yeah,
2017, which is it's the 5-star Dave Meltzer match. It was
4.75, I believe it was. Actually.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
I thought it was a 5-star.
So no, it wasn't even a 5-star. It was a 4.75.
Well, if it was in the Tokyo Dome,
there was outrage.
I thought it was a 5-star. Maybe it was a different one I'm thinking.
Flabbergasted at Dave.
But it was it was in that John Cena mold at the time, which was big move, kick out, big move, kick out, big move, kick outs.
Yes.
But it was great. I think it was a really terrific match. I think the only thing I don't like about it is that Cena won, because I was like, we were all looking forward to AJ going on to Mania as champ, and he didn't. He went on to face Shane McMahon instead, have a competitive match with Shane McMahon.
But it was around that time that Cena was having. It was probably from maybe 2015 onwards where he had a run of matches with the younger crowd or the newer crowd in WWE, and actually went back on the kind of like, considering he buried the Nexus and there's so much burying in John's past, he should be the Undertaker. He's actually putting over these guys. So Owens, when he came up, he had an amazing set of matches with Seth Rollins where they were doing like the roll through attitude adjustments on each other, which were great. And then this one with AJ, and it was just like, I know obviously those previous matches were heel matches, but this is face versus face. It was the same thing. If Cena was just like, we're just going to make you look really good, man.
Yeah.
And it did. And I think this was right around the time that AJ was just getting on that hot streak and moving into the position that he is in now, I think. Where
absolutely.
that he is the de facto face of the company to a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's an absolutely awesome match. And the other one I would throw out is Austin Rock at WrestleMania X7, because I think it's an awesome main event. Both guys were absolutely on fire at the time. We'll try and get through one more. Cameron Sykes asks, I've appeared to have missed the start of the question, so cover for me a second for time while I just get it. Found it.
Feeling for time.
Cameron Sykes asked, what is your favourite PG-era WWE pay-per-view that isn't Money in the Bank 2011, which is obviously the famous Cena CM Punk match? For me, it was Backlash 2009. Stands out with the excellent John Cena Edge main event, solid 6-man tag, and an entertaining battle of the Hardys, and Christian winning the ECW championship. Some people have suggested in the comments, Ryan Sanderson suggested WrestleMania 28, which was the first Rock Cena match, also had the Punk Jericho match, Undertaker Triple H. Josh Lee has suggested Extreme Rules 2012, which is when Lesnar came back and you had that match at the main event, which Cena stupidly won. And Cremborn Fake Namington has said that he can't really think of one. And Jared Conister has suggested Royal Rumble 2017. So I was struggling to think on this one a little bit, because I feel a lot of times, we were talking about this, we're at an age now where kind of like years just seem to blend into each other anyway.
Yeah.
But WWE,
I literally can't think of things now.
But WWE pay-per-views also seem to just blend into each other. Like I can maybe pick out one or so matches, but I can't tell you anything else that was on that card. For example, the first one that came to mind was Survivor Series 2016. Because that Survivor Series match, the Raw versus SmackDown one that goes like an hour, is brilliant. It's so good. And capital off, you then had that Brock Lesnar Goldberg match, which controversially I absolutely loved.
I love that match.
So good. It made Brock Lesnar so interesting.
It's the leapfrog.
And that's the WrestleMania.
That's
this is the one where he just wins in like 28 seconds or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Loved that WrestleMania
where
match.
Goldberg mauls him.
Yeah.
It's the mauling.
Yeah, the WrestleMania match is better because the 5 minutes where they like do half an hour's worth of work in 5 minutes, and it's amazing. So I think I would say Survivor Series 2016, but it's a tough question because I think with WWE pay-per-views, you can only really pick out one or so matches, and then the rest of the card just sort of blends into each other.
There's not been many PG like main card pay-per-views that I've watched where I go, that was like, I mean, so many NXT ones I watch and you're just like, that was great, that was amazing. I couldn't pick anything wrong with like the last 3 maybe that I've watched.
Well, I mean, I stand by. There's never been a bad takeover.
Yeah. But that's it. Yeah, it's not even that. It's not even that there's never been a bad one. I think there's barely ever been a bad thing. Like you know, like there's not even just going like, yeah, that was bad, but the rest was always. It's just like it was all brilliant.
Yeah,
every single time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Whereas I think the main card suffers from bloat, and I've not I watched SummerSlam live this year, and by the end of it, I was just like, will it end? My God.
Yeah, and to be honest, obviously the question is sort of like, it's a post-PG question, but PG isn't at fault. PG is not the reason that main roster pay-per-views don't feel special. It's just the way that the show is produced. It's the way it's put together. It's got nothing to do with PG. And I hate it when I get this argument of just like, PG sucks, that's why WWE sucks. It's nothing to do with PG. It's the same product that you'd have put out. Like, NXT's a PG product. But no one complains that PG makes that rubbish.
Well, you can do, and as Gargano and Ciampa have proved multiple times recently, you can do hardcore in a PG way.
Absolutely, you can do.
Very easily.
Very easily.
And I think that's the, I think the notion that people should be bleeding all over the place or swearing all the time. I don't not against the swear, love a swear, find it quite constraining that I'm not allowed to on this show. But yeah, I don't think that if it just makes it open to everyone to watch, go for it. And then you get moments like when Becky turns around and calls Charlotte bitch. It makes that small word actually very powerful. Yeah. Because no one else is saying it. Yeah.
And it wasn't like swearing in the Attitude Era either. No. You might get a swear off mic during a match or anything, but it wasn't like swear central. It wasn't like ECW.
No, it was just because Austin was chucking up his fingers.
Yeah, exactly. It was pretty much the height of the swearing got. It was just a bit more blood and crap.
Basically, everyone was just annoyed that Austin had to stop doing that. I think that's the main thing, is that now when Austin comes out, he's drinking
Bud Light, but I think that's also for personal reasons. Yeah. But we'll leave it at that. But thank you very much for watching. That is all we have got time for today. Click the videos that have just appeared on our laps to catch up with the latest WrestleTalk awesome thing, and click this button here to subscribe you to the Apple Podcast version. I don't usually do the outros, which has its own exclusive intros and outros completely free. Go check them out; they're very fun. I have been Luke Owen. This has been El Fakador Laurie Blake. Have a good weekend, everyone. I love you. Goodbye.
Bye bye.